Welcome to the Abortionfluencer Podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Luckett. If you're tired of the forced birth lobbies, gaslighting, bad faith debates, and outrageous war on our bodily autonomy, you're in the right place. Each episode will cover the stories, issues, and battles shaping reproductive justice in the United States, and of course, bring you plenty of unapologetic feminist fire. Hey, you can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Abortionfluencer. Be sure to drop the I in there. Don't make it weird, guys. And on Blue Sky, I'm just Abortionfluencer. They want us silent, obedient, and afraid. Ha! Too bad for them. We're not going down without a fight. This is power, and we're taking it back. Let's get into it. It was the summer of 2022, and what many would come to call the summer of rage. The leak of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision had just rocked the nation, a draft opinion that would ultimately overturn Roe v. Wade and strip away nearly 50 years of constitutional protection for abortion rights. It signaled something unmistakable, that the assault on bodily autonomy, on basic human rights, was not coming. It was already here. And that summer, the country rumbled with anger on the edge of a new reality and across America.
My choice!
That anger turned to rage, and in parts of the country, that rage into direct action. In Florida, two activists, Amber Smith-Stewart and Annarella Rivera, who goes by Rivers, stepped into that moment. They didn't storm the Capitol building. They didn't assassinate any medical professionals or block patients from getting care. They didn't hurt anyone. They didn't bring weapons or threats or violence. Their target was something really insidious, a threat hiding in plain sight, one most Americans still don't even know is there. Anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers, or as we like to call them, fake clinics. They're Christian-run operations designed to pose as real medical clinics, but they are unlicensed and therefore don't have to adhere to HIPAA laws, and thus patient privacy. They lure in vulnerable women with promises of free care and pregnancy counseling, only to spread disinformation about abortion, delay access to real abortion services, and pressure people into forced pregnancies, putting lives in danger. Amber and Rivers stood against it. Their act of rebellion? Spray painting pro-abortion messages on the walls of one of these fake clinics. Words of resistance, not violence. But for paint on a wall, they were charged under the FACE Act, a law that was originally created with bipartisan support in 1994. A response to the escalating anti-abortion violence of the late 1980s and early 1990s, including bombings, arson, clinic invasions, and murders of abortion providers. Now, under Biden's Department of Justice, it was being twisted and weaponized against pro-abortion activists, reframing protest as threat and recasting the fight for reproductive freedom as a violent criminal offense. Amber and Rivers faced up to 12 years in prison for defending the very freedoms the FACE Act was meant to protect. Today, they're here to share their story. A story not just about criminal charges, but about what it means to fight for bodily autonomy in a country determined to silence us. Hi there. Thank you for joining me. I'm so thrilled you guys are here to share your story because the mainstream press has not really addressed this as they should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then I'm going to jump into the summer of rage, as we call it. But how you guys introduce yourselves? So, Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of, I guess, how you got into reproductive rights advocacy and your background.
Yeah, of course. I'm a 25-year-old activist from Miami, Florida. I've always been like, doing activist work, really starting in 2020 with, that one summer in 2020. And then, as I started to get more educated on other social issues that were happening, and doing more work going to like, the school board in Miami-Dade County. And at the time, there was a lot of talk about like LGBTQ, like the, what is it, critical race theory in schools. So the local board was, having a bunch of voting sessions on it, things like that, which, that kind of led into the, abortion talk. And then Trump happened, the Dobbs decision happened, and then that's when, my anger really, really started growing because I myself don't have, any personal connection when it comes to abortion care, reproductive health care. But, my mother, uh, has had many abortions, and they saved her life. So it's kind of like it's close to home. So it's like, why not speak out against it? And I think everyone should speak out against it.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Amber. How about go ahead, Rivers?
I'm also an activist from Miami, Florida, um, trying to protect everyone's rights, basically. Um, I'm also a healthcare worker, and I'm an ultrasound tech specializing in OBGYN and fertility medicine. So I know the importance of having abortions and how life-saving they are. And they are truly, it's abortion is healthcare basically. So I just saw this as a violation, an extreme violation to people's rights uh, in healthcare and their bodily autonomy. So this is how I got into it and decided to try and speak up about it somehow.
Fantastic. And you both are in Florida, and these incidents took place in Miami specifically, correct? Yeah.
Um,
Or nope.
it was kind of like a tri-county thing.
Okay. Okay.
The three alleged clinics that were allegedly vandalized was one in Hialeah, Florida, which is Miami-Dade County. That was Heartbeat of Miami. And then you have the Hollywood, Florida clinic, which is Broward County, which that was what, Respect Life
I
or
think so.
Life Choices?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was whichever one's connected to the Archdiocese of Miami. It was that one.
Got it.
And then the third one, which was in Winter Haven, Florida, which is Polk County.
Thank you for sharing your background a little bit there. And then, so let's dive in. I'm going to take you back to, they're calling it the Summer of Rage, the Dobbs decision, which basically decimated the Roe v. Wade. Legislation had happened erroneously, terribly, and we were all, of course, extremely upset. It was the Summer of Rage. So I'm going to take us back there. What was going through your mind at that time, and like why? What led you to your actions during that summer?
Um, so in 2020, when the Dobbs decision, when the leak first happened, that was in what, like May of 2022, I think it was.
Mhm.
And I remember being so upset. Like, I have never been so upset about something before. And I was kind of like, I guess naive, thinking, oh, it's not gonna happen. This is just, this isn't the real thing, right? But and then I just kept reading news article after news article of like people, breaking it down and like really analyzing it, and then also analyzing the judge himself, and his past rulings and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's sinking in even more. And then, Me and Annarella took a trip to Washington, D.C. We took part in some actions outside of SCOTUS, the Supreme Court. Um, it was beautiful. We met some beautiful people up there, made some beautiful connections. There was this group, I forgot their name. I think it was Shutdown DC,
Yeah.
or no. They did the protest outside the justices' homes pretty much every day of the week. We met up with them, like pretty much the whole week we were there. We were out there with them every day at the different justices' homes and stuff. And, talking to them and just hearing how upset other people were, it just cemented that, like, wow, it's not just, me feeling this way, like this deeply upset and deeply emotional about it. It's also other people. And I guess just knowing other people felt similarly to how I did at that moment, it made me feel more confident in taking a more direct stance against, what was to come.
I was terrified, just terrified that people's rights were being taken away from them, and that healthcare was going to be just eradicated for people. And I felt I had to do something as well. Um and yeah, that's what I felt.
Yeah. It's yeah, and I can relate to Amber what you said about like this can't possibly happen because I mean, and I've been in this space for quite some time and seeing the law, just watching in real time the laws, being chipped away at by the GOP and but even like my husband is super feminist, great lefty. He was like, no, there's no way because, then they won't have any wedge issues. And I'm like, it's coming. And no one's like, it was just like, come on. It was like an emergency. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can
that's exactly me with my husband as well. Exactly me.
like, and you're like, come on, it's on. Yeah, totally. So I can absolutely relate to that. Okay, so however you feel comfortable talking about it, can you talk about what happened specifically with these CPCs, crisis pregnancy centers, or fake clinics, as I call them, as we call them? Um, what happened? What was your role in it? What were you thinking at the time? Just kind of walk us through what happened.
Yeah, you know, I vandalized some shit. That's it. Like I'm an artist in my personal life. I paint and graffiti is another form of art, street art. It even has historical significance to Miami itself, um, especially the violence surrounding graffiti, like police towards graffiti artists on the streets of Miami. But to me, when I spray painted, you know, these clinics, it was a way of expressing my anger towards the justice system, towards the United States government as a whole. It was just if it wasn't to intimidate as the government claimed was the purpose. It was simply freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and artists expressing themselves, getting out anger towards a system that has time and time again failed them. Um, but yeah, that was my whole thought process. But I was, mainly just angry in the moment.
Thank you for covering that, Amber. I was going to ask both of you, obviously they're trying to frame you with this intimidation and terrorizing these people. And I wanted to know what was your intention, and so I'm glad you
Yeah.
cover that. Yeah, Rivers.
My intention was to bring some sort of awareness to the community, because these CPCs, they target minorities, they target the most underserved communities, and I I was enraged, and I needed to make people aware that these are not safe, these clinics aren't safe, and just wanted to bring attention to the whole topic. of this healthcare being taken away from people. And
It
right.
worked. Yeah. I don't know if it had the exact consequences you want it. Yeah, but yeah, definitely worked. Um, okay, Rivers, that's a great segue. My next question is how, for both of you, is how would you describe the role these fake clinics play in undermining reproductive health care? Like, can you expand on that a little bit more?
It's pure misinformation. It's dangerous misinformation, and these CPCs, they receive so much funding from the government, and they don't even abide by HIPAA um rules or regulations. So there's no healthcare involved whatsoever. It's a P test and it's an ultrasound. That's it. There's not a doctor in there to tell you the results. It's a person, and it's just very dangerous misinformation to the community. Um
Yeah, that like for specifically Heartbeat of Miami, which was the Hialeah facility that got vandalized. They specifically have, a close relationship with the current administration, with Donald Trump himself. Um, Rivers, what's her name? Maria
Mar-
Avelar?
Marta
Martha,
Avila.
Martha Avila. Um, she is the founder of Heartbeat of Miami.
Hmm.
Um, and they also have close ties to the Miami Proud Boys. Very close ties to the point where one of them is on their board. They attend their gala fundraisers. Um, so that just shows that they are a part of a bigger network of, just platforms that just are, the main cause of mass misinformation. So they are the machine for just misinformation when it comes to abortion care in general.
And like I would call it Christian nationalism, and
Yes.
That's
it's
right.
wholly religiously based, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
controlling women and traditional, roles and things. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Go ahead. Mhm. No,
specifically
go.
Heartbeat of Miami, when you go to their website, they have a list of what we like to call them their trophies, their trophy cases of the stories of the mothers who went to them seeking an abortion, and thankfully through the word of God, they were able to spare this innocent child's life, even
Yeah.
though the child had some form of issue in utero, and once it was born, it didn't end up making it past a certain amount of months.
Yeah, we don't hear about that part of it.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Yeah, I have started to understand that a lot of them don't I mean, the message, I don't think they really even, I mean, I don't think they believe it. I think honestly it's mostly just a GOP operative, like fundraising branch, honestly. And I would love more investigative journalism around it. I said that in that video I
Yes.
made. It was like, I would love like ProPublica to really go hard on this and
Mm.
make those connections because they need to be exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be exposed for their misinformation, of course, and all the harm they do to people going to their facilities.
Yeah. There
But
has
also,
been
yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
No,
There
go ahead.
has been one Unicorn Riot, who's
Oh,
an independent media source. They actually did an investigative piece on specifically Heartbeat of Miami and their connection with Trump and the Proud Boys within Miami. And
yes.
it's an amazing piece, and I suggest everyone to go read it if they haven't already.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Amber. I used their article actually for my video. So
Yeah.
yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, they did an amazing job and I said that like they did an amazing job. I want more. Like we need to really, yeah, do even more because and just the like you said, they are funded. Like they have stolen our tax dollars. They whine and complain about our tax dollars going toward abortion, which, the Hyde Amendment prevents that. And then they're taking our money for all of this really dangerous, yeah, misinformation. So can you walk us through like I know it sounds like the law enforcement sort of terrorized you all. And can you walk us through the events leading up to your arrest and how did law enforcement treat you at that time?
Oh yeah, for me, so my arrest and the subsequent raid of my home happened on January 23rd of 2023. And it was a Monday. Before that day, I had no idea I wasn't being investigated by the FBI, nothing. Um, that the Sunday before, so January 22nd, uh, I actually organized a vigil for Tort, who was the murdered force defender in Atlanta. Um, it was a beautiful vigil, we were having a good time, creating art, music. I had no idea that the next day I would be waking up at 10 a.m. to over like an intercom system or something, or like a bullhorn, just the FBI fully announcing my full government name, telling me to come outside with my hands raised in the air to my whole little community. And I live in a very white, very like true middle class suburban neighborhood in Central Florida. Like, I was terrified. I was petrified. I just remember that eventually, after, I got done, internally freaking out and like panicking, one of the agents spotted me from in my home through the window. And, at that point, is like, well, I have to go out now. So that's when, I open my door, I walk outside with my hands raised in the air, and this is when my whole body just completely goes like calm, relaxed, as if like I'm like protecting myself from this trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm just like walking to them. As I'm reaching my driveway, to my left, I see a group of maybe like 5 to 8 men in full, like, looks like military gear. They had riot shields, helmets, and AR weapons.
Oh my God.
Um, and this one thing will stick with me for the rest of my life. Those firearms were not pointed at center mass. They were pointed, a little bit higher,
Oh
this
God.
level. Um, I was terrified. So I kind of like paused in the middle of my driveway. There's a line of SUVs blocking the whole front of my house. There's agents taking cover behind their open doors with their firearms drawn, pointing at me, along with a battery ram that was pulled out and prepared to knock down my door if I hadn't woken up at the time that I did, because I was sleeping. It was in the morning.
Jeez.
Um, and so the FBI agent instructs me to continue walking towards him slowly. I did. As soon as I reached the street, they immediately like swarm around me, immediately handcuffed behind the back and thrown into the back of an unmarked car. My roommates were home. They end up getting dragged out the house by FBI agents. They're freaking out. I am freaking out internally. I asked them, what are the charges? What's the charges? Like, so inconvenienced. It was so funny how I said it too, because I remember feeling so inconvenienced. I was like, what are the charges?
Probably like
And
shock. Yeah.
the FBI agent, I don't remember his name, but he was a really tall, big man. And he was like, you have two violations of the FACE Act and one count of conspiracy against rights.
Mm.
And that was the first time I've ever heard about either one of those things.
Yeah.
So imagine how confused I was. The questions I was asking myself, like, what did I do? What is this? Like, it, but yeah, it was very traumatizing, like beyond traumatizing, to the point where I should seek professional help and talk to somebody because I am showing symptoms of PTSD, which I've already been diagnosed with CPTSD. So of course, another traumatic event is just going to compound even
Mm,
further.
jeez.
But
I'm
yeah,
so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's so unnecessary. And I just want to
it
remind everyone, graffiti.
wasn't just me who was affected. I'd like to talk about my husband's experience a little bit in this
Yeah,
because
please do.
Because
Yeah.
while my husband is he's a political person, he understands our current political climate. He hears me ranting and just venting about all the dumb crap we see every single day, the breaking headlines. But he's not involved in any form of activism at all. He's your
Yeah.
normal dude, your normal bro. And that morning of the raid, I didn't know at the time, but when I was subsequently released from, the courthouse, he ended up telling me that the FBI had called his work cell phone that day. Um,
Mm.
he was at work at the office, and he originally thought it was like a prank that maybe one of his coworkers or someone was playing on him or something. So he kind of like, hung up. But then they called back and it was like, "Hey, this is so and so with task force, special task force with the FBI.
Oh,
Is anybody home?" And he kind of took it a little bit more seriously, and he was like, "Oh, my wife is, let me call them." And
mm.
as I was getting a phone call from him on my phone, as I was walking out of the house into their custody.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So they didn't
So imagine
really,
how
yeah, they didn't
he
warn you.
was freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was at work.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, my husband is like that too. Like he's political, but he's not
Yeah.
involved in the activism. So yeah, totally can relate to his
Yep.
fear for you and like ugh. And how you probably I don't know. I feel like I put my family in danger just because these people are so wacko from the anti-abortion side and they've done online doxing and all that stuff. And I feel like I put my family in danger and not because of us, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can relate. Oh, I'm so sorry to both of you. Rivers, do you want to go ahead and answer that? So that
Mhm.
was basically like what happened with law enforcement? How did they treat you? What was your arrest like?
Mine's so on the 23rd, two FBI agents come to my place of work. They wanted me to answer some questions. Um, I really didn't speak to them at all. I wasn't detained. I asked them if I was gonna be detained. They said no.
Hmm.
So that I'm freaking out, and just a few weeks pass, and on the 1st of February, I was raided. It was a no knock warrant. The FBI had lied to a judge saying that I had a gun in the house. I've never owned a gun or a rifle. But me and my kids, we were woken up with flashbangs. They battery rammed in the house, smoke bombs.
Oh my God.
Mhm. Uh, you would think that this was like like I'm a huge, like, I don't know, El Chapo or something, and
Yeah,
and I'm
like gang
not.
member. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Um,
Wow.
Helicopters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
Oh my God.
ridiculous. It
Oh
was
my God.
ridiculous. My kids and I were escorted out of the house
Your
with guns.
kids.
With
Jesus.
guns pointed at the back of our heads.
Oh my
All
God.
of us were handcuffed. Um, I wasn't detained. They allowed they allowed me to take the kids after that to school, and I went to work. Um, they stayed behind. They ransacked the place. They destroyed everything. They broke off the keys off our piano. They
Hmm.
destroyed my son's drum set. Um, they destroyed our attic. we were running a soup kitchen and a clothes distro for a mutual aid that we had for our houseless neighbors. And I had a lot of clothes. I would pick up clothes donations, and it was just they broke appliances, kitchen appliances.
Jeez.
They took paintings. They took everything. They
Mm.
took all our electronic devices. They took the kids' laptops from school. Um, they destroyed everything. I wasn't detained on the 23rd of March. Oh, I was evicted.
Mm.
The day
Wow.
after that, I was evicted. I lost my job because I didn't have a phone. I didn't have anything to call my job
Oh,
and tell them
jeez.
that I was going to be late. Um, so I lost that job. I found another job, making more than what I was making. I was real happy. So yeah, I
Silver
thought,
lining.
yeah, silver lining. I'm
Ah,
like, okay, this is good. I'll be able, to if that's okay. I can't stay here, but I'll be able to have money to look for another place, so we'll be fine. On the 22nd of March, myself and our other co-defendant, we were formally indicted with the FACE Act, me, and conspiracy charges, the same charges as Amber. On the 29th of March, as I'm taking the kids to go to school, again, like another raid, a whole bunch of FBI, over
Jesus.
30 police officers, like city police. They pull up on us, and that's when I'm finally arrested, detained. I was taken to the FBI headquarters in Miami. um I was released under a surety bond, a 50,000 surety bond,
Mm.
about 6 7 hours after I was arrested. And then I didn't know this, but I had an open bench warrant for driving with a suspended license,
Yeah.
for not for and as soon as they take the handcuffs off the as soon as they release me from the feds, they put me back in
Oh,
handcuffs. I
Jesus.
have to I
Oh,
have to
God.
go to jail.
Oh, my
I
God.
I did. I went in. I was bonded out. My friends bonded me out, and I was released the next day. So I lost that job because I was like two
Oh.
days MIA. Yep. Then because I didn't have I was then finally given a no contact order, and the with the people that I couldn't speak with,
Right.
which was basically my entire community. In those people, I had business partners. We were
Mm.
trying to open up a co-op, and we had been working on this co-op for like 2 years already. So that's gone.
Mm.
I can't talk to I can't talk to anybody. The judge, because I didn't have a place to live, she sends me to Polk County.
Mm.
Um my kids had a lot of things going on in school. They were in the middle of their junior year,
Mm.
going into senior. So it was best for them to stay over there, stay with some family. And I haven't been with them since, ever
Oh, wow.
since 2023. It's been two
Oh,
years
my
and
God. I had
hmm
no idea.
yeah, my life was just completely like, and it's hard. It's hard.
Destroyed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
destroyed. And
Completely derailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
completely,
Completely.
completely. Nobody hires me
Oh.
for what I do, which is ultrasound, because of this felony.
Mm.
And it's just hard. It's hard to get back over there. It's with how everything is, how expensive rent is. So I'm still separated from my kids. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
Jeez.
that was it.
I had no both of you. I was not expecting. Like I'm like choking up. Both of I just can't, especially having children and whew, your kids pointing guns at your kids.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
it's just making
there's one
I'm getting
there's
so
one
mad.
specific
Go
you're
ahead.
about to get even more mad. Just
Oh
wait.
no.
One specific moment during my arrest that I will always remember because so as I'm at the FBI headquarters in downtown Orlando, um they are asking me after the initial interrogation, where they attempted to interrogate me, in which they were unsuccessful. I did not cooperate at all. I requested an attorney, as everyone should immediately.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
as they are transporting me from the FBI headquarters to the federal courthouse in downtown for holding, they asked me if I will give them my phone passcode so they can unlock my phone. I respond saying no. They're like, okay, well, it's in a warrant that says that we can use reasonable force to get you to unlock your phone if you have biometrics enabled, which I did not listen to everything I've been taught about, security culture. I did indeed have my biometrics enabled.
Mm.
Um, so as when we got to the federal courthouse, that's when I requested to read the warrant. And eventually I was handed the warrant and I read it for myself, and it did indeed say they could use reasonable force. And at that moment, with how earlier that morning went with the initial raid and how extremely violent they were towards me, in my head, I was thinking, well, if I don't unlock my phone for them, they're going to smash my face into the ground and to force me to unlock my phone with my face.
Yeah.
So, what are you gonna do if you're in that position? You're gonna either get beat up or you're gonna hand it over. So I chose to stay safe and hand it over.
Actually, that's great feedback for these
Yeah.
communities because there are things that I would never have thought
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know it cannot be easy to go back through that, and it sounds extremely traumatizing. And I'm
Yeah.
just sorry that happened to you. It's so unnecessary. And I just, again, just want to remind everyone, this is Biden's DOJ and Biden's
Hmm.
Yep.
administration.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's what I want liberals, I guess. I hate the labels, but anyway, anyone who supports, Democrats and thinks they're the good party, I just want people to be aware of what happens that we don't really hear about
Yep.
as much. Once you understood what the FACE Act was, that you're being charged under the FACE Act and what it was originally meant for, how did the trial go? Um,
Mm.
and what did you talk about in the trial as like related to what it is unbelievable that you were being charged under legislation that was meant for anti-abortion violence. And it seems to me like you were being made an example of, which may be very obvious, but if you could talk about that and then just kind of like walk us through the trial.
So we didn't have a trial.
Okay.
Because three of us, and us two here, we took a plea deal, a non-cooperative plea deal. But leading up to this plea deal, we had no idea what we were going to do. We were, with getting with our attorneys, talking over, what our options are, looking over discovery, and seeing how we wanted to move forward with this. With me and my attorney, Lauren Regan through the CLDC, I thought it was best for myself to further look at taking a plea deal because I did not want to go to trial. I didn't want the risk of losing under the FACE Act and being the first, specifically in Florida, to be charged under the FACE Act. I didn't want to have that risk of setting that precedent to where maybe in the future potential activists could this precedent could be used against them in the future. So At one point during the very beginnings of our trial, not our trial, our case, more so the infancy of it, we were hit with what's called slap suits. We were slapped with two different lawsuits, one from Heartbeat of Miami under the
Okay.
grounds of civil RICO charges, along with FACE Act violations, the conspiracy against rights, but mainly the main difference was the RICO, civil RICO charges. And then the second one was from the state of Florida. We were being sued by Ashley Moody, who is the Republican Attorney General for Florida. Um, she, in her complaint, which is the formal name for what the file is, her complaint on us was that we were members of Antifa and members of Jane's Revenge, her literal quotes. So she was kind of suing us just for being alleged members of these non-existent organizations. Um, Along with, I think she was also had some words of civil RICO in there as well, kind of piggybacking off of Heartbeat of Miami. So as we had those two lawsuits on our plate, um, we had what is called a global settlement hearing, or like, a little meeting, where both parties of the lawsuits, they go to the court. They have a court. The judge is the mediator, essentially. You will be placed into separate rooms. The judge will go in between rooms to mediate, to, kind of like agree on a set of terms to be able to just settle the cases essentially out of court. So that's what we did. At the end of it, it was a whole day event. We ate sandwiches in the courtroom, whole day event. Um, we came to an agreement that, not so happy about, but it was something that I could live with. At the end of the settlement, we came to an agreement which stated that we would take a felony plea deal on the conspiracy against rights, that we had to walk out of this with a felony charge. There was no way around that. Our other conditions were what? Like one was
Uh-huh.
the apology, one was
Oh.
you have to take a felony. I think it was what, stay 100 yards away from the
From,
facilities that were vandalized
yeah, and have no
for
contact
life.
with, yeah, for life, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then no contact with victims, and then paid
Yeah.
restitution, court ordered restitution. So yeah, that's how the the slap suits kind of got settled, but they were still in the back burner open, but nothing was progressing on the lawsuits at all. So when it came to the plea deal, that's where things get real interesting. Real interesting. And that's where we really see where the minds of the Biden's DOJ was at this time. Did the DOJ, the AG's office, the White House itself. So there was a bunch of back and forth with the AUSA for the government, um, kind of negotiating on wording in the plea agreement, and like the what is it called, the basic facts or something like that, which is just like a long, this big paragraph essay of like just the facts of the case, what you are admitting to, and how it happened, strategically laid out and stuff. So it was a bunch of tweaking and stuff, and one of them was we were trying to negotiate with the AUSA to, what was it, not take a felony or
Yeah.
something, or to
Yeah.
take a lesser felony or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where things get interesting. The AUSA would say, let me bring it up the flagpole. Any changes that we were making to the plea agreement, like the wording of it or anything, it was always, let me take it up the flagpole. Hello, there is no flagpole. It is the AUSA and then your boss. Who is your boss? The Attorney freaking General of the United States. And oh
Right.
wait, who's his boss? Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
flagpole. We know who you're taking it to.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as we know, it could have came from the mouth of Biden himself in the Oval Office to say, these people, they must take felonies. Who knows? Because guess what? No flagpole. That was some of the little fun tidbits of how we came to the plea agreement. But where we were really, really strong when it came to the plea agreement was that this was not a cooperative plea agreement.
Could you
Right.
explain that a
Because
little bit?
a non-cooperative plea agreement is, yes, you are in an agreement with the United States government that you are taking this felony and that you are guilty in exchange for, like, you get some benefits of the admission of guilt,
Mm.
essentially. So your sentencing, it's a whole like little like chart basis like thing, like an Excel sheet essentially on like, your risk to offend, how you should be sentenced. So it could kind of help you, get a better score on that. So your guideline is a little bit better.
Uh,
But
Yeah.
we were very strict that we would not hand over any information to the government in exchange for this plea agreement. We
mhm.
will not answer questions. We will not talk to you, nothing. We will not cooperate in any way, shape, or
Okay.
form.
Annarella, why don't you tell us your experience?
Um, so basically with the slap suit, so by taking that plea agreement, that we were agreeing to the felony of intimidate, oppress, injure. By taking the plea agreement, we won't get charged with under the FACE Act. And by taking the plea agreement, the slap suits that the Archdiocese of Miami and the AG Ashley Moody put go away. Also, by putting those slap suits on us, that would take away our rights of pleading the fifth if we would have taken this to trial. So that's a tactic that it's an octopus. It's so slimy,
Mm,
you know? By having this slap suit on you, if you wanted to fight for yourself and take this to trial, you can't plead the fifth.
mhm.
You're obligated to say everything. So
Mhm.
that was the best decision that we made was take that plea agreement for the felony.
The risk of getting what is it called, deposed
Mhm.
by
Right, right,
the government
exactly.
on these lawsuits, being like, I remember speaking with my attorney and going over the options of, okay, what if, I get served tomorrow with papers saying that I must come into court the following week to answer their questions. Well, what can I do to avoid this?
Mm,
We had some options of where I could have, just shown up and just blatantly not answered their questions, just sat there silent and say, I'm not answering your questions, and just, be held in contempt of court, which could possibly, land me in jail up until the point where I do open up my mouth and answer their questions, which would never happen. I spoke to my attorney about this many times of, if this happens, this is probably what I'm going to do, and I'm just going
mm,
to sit in jail until they let me go.
Yeah.
But luckily, that didn't happen. But a big part of the negotiations for the plea agreement was for the plea agreement combined with the global settlement with Heartbeat of Miami and Ashley Moody was the restitution amount. Because in their original lawsuits, I think they were each asking like what, $350,000
mm.
from
Hmm.
each of us or something
Hmm.
like that for
Yeah.
each clinic as well. So if
Yeah.
you
Oh my
add that
God.
up,
Takes like what? Some soap and water, maybe some
yeah,
paint. And yeah, it's
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So we were going back
crazy.
and forth for a while because like the plaintiffs, they wouldn't turn in the paper to the courts on the actual like cost of damages and the proof of cost of
Mm,
damages to come up with an accurate, number of what our restitution should be. So Annarella Rivers actually, reached out to some contractors and got a quote on how much it would cost to cover it up. And turns out it's nowhere near $350,000.
I'm
It's
shocked.
barely $1,000.
Uh-huh. Shocking.
Yeah.
Oh, these people are so gross on so many different levels. And that's a wrap for part 1 of my interview with Rivers and Amber. Please stay tuned for part 2, dropping in a couple of weeks, I hope, in which they cover what happened after their legal battle, what it was like serving their 30 days in prison, and what comes next. Hey, subscribe wherever you listen. Leave a review if you're all fired up now. And please stick around because we are just getting started here at the Abortionfluencer Podcast. Thanks everyone for listening.